You need to be targeting these players ahead of FPL double game week 33. We're going to be going through some of the double game week teams and letting you know which 3 players I think are the best going into this week and who you should be transferring into your teams and what the minutes I think are going to be like for certain players, because we don't know in terms of, there's a lot of fixtures in a short space of time, who's actually going to be getting the minutes and who are going to be the players that we need to be owning to really give us them green arrows in FPL double game week 33. If you enjoyed the video and it helps you out, do drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel as well, it'd be very greatly appreciated. It takes 1 second, and let's jump straight into it. Now, we've got to start off by talking about Mateta. Obviously got transferred in by lots of FPL managers, almost 700,000 FPL managers transferring in Mateta, and he actually got substituted at half-time against Manchester City. Captained as well by 122,000, triple captained by 4,000. Of course, there's still another game to go for Crystal Palace in that double game week game against Newcastle, but doesn't look ideal. And Oliver Glasner did say that he got substituted off due to the fact that he lost a lot of the duels and he lost the ball too many times as well. And he said his mistake in the game, because Crystal Palace ended up getting smashed by Man City in the second half pretty much. He said his mistake was to change the system, not to take Mateta off. So he stood by to actually taking Mateta off. Not a good look at all. Mateta's been subbed off a few times recently, obviously due to the fact that he's had that pretty bad injury on his head as well. But not ideal that he's getting subbed off due to tactical reasons when Nketiah wasn't even available for the game, and then Mateta getting subbed off after 45 is just not good going forward. Of course, we need to see how he gets on against Newcastle. I'm sure he'll start the game, and I'm sure things will be fine. But as I say, it's not a good sign. It's not ideal that Oliver Glasner actually feels like it's the best decision to take Mateta off for tactical reasons. Clearly wasn't in the end, given the fact that they absolutely got smashed. But not good news really looking at Mateta there. Now, if you own Mateta and you own Crystal Palace assets, realistically, I don't want to speak too much on Crystal Palace assets because we've already kind of made our minds up on them. Mateta is still a great choice in my opinion. I'd still be having Mateta. Eze and Sarr are still great. And as well as that, Daniel Munoz as well, who is very good as well. So those are the clear standouts. It's kind of who you've already gone for, I guess, out of those. Whoever you've got, you stick with, in my personal opinion. Now, let's speak about Crystal Palace's opponents in that game, which, of course, was Man City. Now, Man City did, of course, win that game very comfortably in the end. And a lot of people were very surprised, and Man City fans were very surprised, by the lineup that Pep Guardiola did select for the game. He had McAtee playing, he had Kevin De Bruyne starting. Phil Foden wasn't fit enough to make the squad in the slightest. And then Savio as well was also on the bench as well. Marmoush, to me, seemed like the most nailed-on player for Man City. Of course, with Haaland being injured, he is the closest, or he's pretty much a number 9, Marmoush is, so he's as close as Man City can get to that. So Marmoush, for me, is pretty nailed on, and I actually really like him as a captaincy option in game week 33, because we don't really know what Saka's minutes are going to be like. He's currently on the bench this game against Arsenal, against Brentford, and we don't know if he's going to play both the double game week games. We don't know if he's going to start them both. Omar Marmoush does look pretty good for starts and good for minutes, and he's in form as well at the moment. He's been great at the Etihad, and it's not a bad double game week against Everton and Aston Villa. So I wouldn't mind playing Omar Marmoush or having him as captain in particular at all. He's definitely someone that's on my radar for captaincy personally, and right now he's probably my number 1 captaincy shout going into game week 33, which I don't know if it's crazy or not, but that's my personal opinion right now. Now, Gabriel for me is still the best Man City defender. Obviously, he's been playing pretty much every single minute recently. Man City didn't look good defensively in that first half against Crystal Palace. They were getting cut open time and time again. Eze was on absolute fire in the first 30 minutes or so in the game. Ismail Assar was looking dangerous as well. Like Palace were looking dangerous, and Man City were looking very suspect defensively, but I'm still absolutely fine and absolutely sure that Gvardiol will keep his place. It's just the fact that he's going to most likely be centre-back because O'Reilly getting another goal as well for Manchester City, and he's looked very good over in that left-back position. So I do expect Gvardiol to keep his place, but I don't expect him to be playing in an attacking role like he has been at times in this season, especially last season. Now, we've got to discuss Kevin De Bruyne as well. Now, he did start the match, and Kevin De Bruyne was the best player on the pitch. He threw it back to a couple of years ago, or however long Kevin De Bruyne was in his prime. I mean, he's been in his prime for so long, but this year, you have seen a significant drop-off in his minutes and in his overall form as well. But that was the De Bruyne of old. Now, as a short-term punt in game week 33, he could be absolutely amazing, but can we guarantee that he's going to play both games? Absolutely not. Can you guarantee I put McAtee as well there? Can you guarantee McAtee will play both the games? Absolutely not. Can you guarantee Savio will? Absolutely not. You wouldn't be surprised if Savio even came back into the starting 11 after being benched. So with Man City assets, I don't know who that third one is in terms of who to own. Edison went off injured, so we don't even know if Edison's going to be fit or Ortega's going to be playing. We don't know. There's also Ruben Diaz. Ruben Diaz has been starting the game with Gvardiol at the back. So I don't mind the look of Ruben Diaz for a third Man City asset, just due to the fact that he's more likely to play both the games than a De Bruyne, in my opinion. He's more likely to play both the games than a McAtee, than a Savio, than whoever else there is. But then the problem is maybe Kushinov could come back in for Ruben Diaz. But for me, I do think the City's strongest partnership is still Gvardiol at the back with Ruben Diaz, and then O'Reilly at left back, and then either Rico Lewis or Nunez at right back, whoever comes in that right back position. But you can't really guarantee minutes of any other player for me, for Man City, other than probably Gvardiol and probably Omar Marmoush. Other than that, I'm not 100% sure on everybody's minutes. But as I say, if I was to choose three, I think for me, I'm looking at potentially bringing in Ruben Diaz in my side, either him or Saliba. It's probably going to be one of those two. Most likely Saliba, chances are, but we'll discuss Arsenal assets in a second. But as I say, the two are, of course, Gvardiol and Omar Marmoush. Then the third one, you are taking a risk. There's no doubt about it. Now, speaking of Arsenal assets, now, of course, we do kind of want to be having three, with Arsenal's double game week being a very nice double game week against Ipswich and Crystal Palace. So, of course, David Raya is pretty much in most people's teams already, but if he's not, then for me, David Raya is definitely in the top three Arsenal assets. Obviously nailed on with him being a goalkeeper, and we know Arsenal's defence, how good it is over the course of the season. Of course, Gabriel is out injured, which isn't ideal, but we do still have a solid enough Arsenal defence, which are currently, at the moment I'm watching the game, it's currently 0-0 between Arsenal and Brentford. Hopefully Raya does come in and get that clean sheet. There's also then William Saliba as well. I'm very confident in his minutes still. Obviously, they're still in the Champions League. The Champions League now, by the way, is, of course, Arsenal's main focus. They are beating Real Madrid currently 3-0, and going into second leg, you should expect them to go through. It would be a catastrophe if it did happen, but you can't exactly rule out Real Madrid 100%. But I just can't see Arsenal conceding 3 goals to Real Madrid. I just can't see it happening. So you're looking at Arsenal there, probably putting all their eggs in the Champions League basket from this point, given the fact they're not going to win the Premier League. They're not going to drop out of Champions League football. They're pretty much in a limbo stage, almost near enough anyway. They need a few more points in the Premier League, but they're pretty much in limbo at this point anyway. So for me, I still like Raya as the number one. I like Saliba as well. Now then it's on the third player. Now, I wouldn't be tripling up on the Arsenal defence. I think that's maybe a bit too much, but they do have a nice double game week. So if you wanted to go for that, then go for it. But for me, I will be going for one of their midfielders. Now, Bukayo Saka is currently on the bench in the game against Brentford, as I said before, but he could potentially get one start in the double game week 33, then one game off the bench, which is better than a single game week player. And he could also very well start both of the games in double game week 33. He's still kind of building his fitness and his minutes before getting back to full fitness, you'd say. And Arteta definitely doesn't want to be risking him too much, as you've seen with him being on the bench against Brentford and being on the bench against Everton as well. Obviously, Arteta is managing his minutes, which is absolutely valid considering they've got that Champions League and they don't want another injury to such an important player. But game week 33, you're building a few more games into Bukayo Saka now. You'd imagine he'll come off the bench against Brentford. He'll start in Madrid as well, and then from then you've got a couple of games there where he could potentially get some decent minutes. And Bukayo Saka is definitely a very good option. Now, as a captaincy, just the minutes that he's been getting recently is enough to kind of put me off the captaincy for a Bukayo Saka. Like, I prefer Omar Marmoush, even though his fixtures are a little bit worse, but he has got them guaranteed minutes, or you'd say a lot more guaranteed minutes than a Bukayo Saka. So for me, I do think the 3 strongest options for Arsenal is David Raya, William Saliba, and then Bukayo Saka still for me personally. There's also Merino as well, but Merino I'm just not a fan of in terms of FPL for me personally. He could just drop out the side at any point as well, and I'm just not too sure. I'm not too certain, and I'm not really sold on Mikel Merino. So for me, it would be Bukayo Saka, David Raya, and then William Saliba as my 3 Arsenal players personally. Now, as for Aston Villa, I've decided to put their starting 11 on the screen right now. This is the game they just played against Southampton. Now, they did play a pretty strong team, to be honest. A lot of the players that did play in the Champions League actually then played in the Premier League as well. You're looking at Ezri Konsa, who a lot of people thought might not be in the side. Matty Cash started again, and then Morgan Rogers started again, being the main one. A lot of people thought he might get rotated. For me, I've always said in my video before, I thought Morgan Rogers got a good chance of playing, just due to the fact that he started pretty much every single game for Unai Emery whenever he's been fit. I've seen a lot of people saying that they thought he would have been benched, and it didn't surprise me in the slightest to see Morgan Rogers start in that game, to be honest. Like I did say, if you had him, then you should have started him all along, to be honest, because he's definitely one of Unai Emery's favourite players in terms of who he likes to pick, and he's essential to the way that Aston Villa do play. Such an important player to them. So Asensio came in. We'll discuss Asensio in a second, because that was an absolutely shocking game from Asensio in terms of the penalties. Marcus Rashford actually started again. He came off. Ollie Watkins then finished the game up top and made a really good impact against Southampton. Ollie Watkins was the difference in that game in the end. So definitely someone that could potentially come back into the side and someone we need to be talking about for game week 33. But it's just the fact that Unai Emery doesn't seem to rate Ollie Watkins like he did like a season ago, it feels like. Duran come back into it, and then obviously Duran's gone out on loan. Rashford's come in now, and he's been playing the number 9 a bit. Like, he's not absolutely nailed on Ollie Watkins like he was last year, which is a shame, because if Ollie Watkins was nailed on, he'd be in a lot of people's FPL teams. It's just a shame it hasn't really worked out so far this season. We're discussing the Aston Villa assets. Now, of course, I've said here, Morgan Rogers is the most proven. If I had to choose one Aston Villa asset, it's Morgan Rogers. He has the form in terms of the returns recently. We've got an assist as well against Southampton. And as well as that, he has the backup in terms of the minutes as well. Like in terms of he's been proven all season to be one of Unai Emery's main guys. So for me, Morgan Rogers is just the guy for Aston Villa. I don't care what anybody says. He's the number one, and he always has been, and he probably always will be as long as he's still an Aston Villa player. Now, in terms of Villa defenders, I do think Const's the most nailed. He's probably the number one choice for Unai Emery in terms of he's the most available in terms of fitness, and as well as that, he's played a lot of games this season, and he's done very well when he's played this season. Now, I think Ezri Konsa is definitely a preferable option to the other options. You look at Disasi in there, you've got Tyrone Mings, you've got Pau Torres, but I think Konsa is the number one in terms of that, and he'd be the one for me that is the safest in terms of minutes. Other than that, of course, Martinez is the safest with him being the goalkeeper, nailed on every single week as long as he's fit. So Martinez is a great option as well, and a lot of people already own him on their wildcard. Now, Asensio, of course, has good upside. He took both the penalties in the game against Southampton, but missed them both. Who's going to be taking the penalties for Aston Villa going forward? God knows. I think it's got to be Morgan Rogers at some point. Like, just call it a day, Unai Emery. Drop Asensio. Drop Watkins, he already has. Rashford, if he's on the pitch, maybe. And then Morgan Rogers has got to be the next in line. There's also Tielemans as well. There's a lot of options that can take a penalty for Villa. But at the end of the day, Unai Emery, just give it to Morgan Rogers at this point, because the guy don't let you down. Morgan Rogers just doesn't let you down. So I'd be giving them to Morgan Rogers going forward. So penalties for Villa is definitely up in the air going forward. And as I say, Asensio's got good upside, but is he nailed to play both the games? Absolutely not. Same with Rashford. Is he nailed to play both the games? Absolutely not. With Ollie Watkins coming in and making that impact, could he be the one to start in game week 33? Or could he be the one to start against PSG? We need to watch that PSG game again and see who gets the minutes. But it's just Morgan Rogers, realistically. Morgan Rogers and then a defender. And then you could take a punt on an Asensio, on a Rashford, or on a Ollie Watkins, who does look quite interesting with him doing very well in game week 33. Let me know what you're thinking going into game week 33. It's going to be a very good double game. It's going to be very interesting to see what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel. If you've watched this point, you may as well hit subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.